Welcome back, guys. Or if you're new to my channel, this is Automotive Anonymous, and that's the 2025 Mazda CX-30. But more specifically, this is a Turbo Premium, so it's a pretty high, pretty powerful trim level of the CX-30, and this is in the all-new, highly anticipated Aero Gray Metallic paint color, which looks fantastic in person. But I'll be honest with you guys, on an overcast day like today, I can't see as much metallic flake in the paint as I would like to. But holy cow, does this contrast well. Anyways, although this is a high horsepower, pretty impressive crossover, it's not perfect. So today, I get to share the good, the bad, and the ugly of the 2025 Mazda CX-30 to help you guys at home decide if this might be the right vehicle for you, so you can expect to see a walk around. All the specs, initial driving impressions, 0 to 60 on GPS, and then my final thoughts. And huge thanks to Goody Motor Mazda for letting me borrow this one for the day. They're an awesome dealership because they sell below MSRP. They ship all over the country, including you guys in Alabama who just bought a CX-5. And with that said, let's dive right into this review. And if you like Mazda, the CX-30, or you appreciate the effort that went into making this video, please consider liking the video. Basically, that lets me know you want to watch more stuff like this, helps my video get shared, helps you by having YouTube choose to show you more stuff, and you could even consider it your good deed for the day. Thank you so much. But if you're new to the CX-30, or even Mazda in general, there's a few things that you need to know. That is a Japanese automaker. Traditionally, they are known for reliability, affordability, and building very safe vehicles, which the CX-30 is no exception to that. But Mazda as a company has actually been around for quite a while. They were founded in 1920, although they dabbled in some other businesses before they got into making automobiles back in 1931, and then they decided to wait nearly 40 years before coming to the United States market, which, because we went through World War II, I really can't blame them for the delay. But now that we've had them for 55 years, and we've had the CX-3 globally for a while, this is kind of built off of that. This is the CX-30. It came out a few years ago, so this is still the first generation since 2020, and it's been gaining popularity every single year in the subcompact crossover class of vehicle. Last year, for 2024, they sold almost 100,000 of these in the United States market, and basically 200,000 units globally. So they're gaining a lot of traction, they're gaining a lot of ground, and there's a lot of interesting things that this has to offer. But being the Turbo Premium, it's the 7 of the 8 highest trim levels, so it's not very cheap. But compared to the average new car, this is a complete steal, a complete bargain. But back up, the base model CX-30 starts at $25,000, and that is still a very good deal. This one being number 7 of the 8, it starts at $35,000. So for being a top tier trim level, it really isn't that much more expensive. And this one loaded after destination, after a few extra options before Goody Motors discount, it's only about $37,000. But what you get for that is not just the really bright LED headlights, all the standard safety features, the power moonroof, the heated leather-wrapped steering wheel, the heated, powered, memory-adjusted leather seats. You get a bunch of other things too, in addition to what makes the Turbo Premium special, which is of course the turbo engine. But you also get traffic sign recognition, brake support, and 360-degree sensors, and they work pretty well. But one of the reasons that I really enjoy this vehicle is because it is a subcompact, so it's small, it's convenient to drive around town, but it's stable enough and weighs enough to be stable and enjoyable on the highway. This overall is about 14.5 feet long. The wheelbase is 8.6 feet, which is actually pretty decent for the overall length. It's just under 5 feet tall, just under 6 feet wide. This weighs 3,400 to 3,500 pounds, depending on which options it has and if it's a turbo or non-turbo engine, because that adds a little bit of weight. And then it has a payload capacity of 850 pounds, which is not class leading, but that is pretty average for this class of vehicle. It can tow up to about 2,000 pounds. The ground clearance is roughly 8 inches. Because it's a turbo, it should have a 384 final drive ratio, and then it can do a full circle in about 35 feet, which is pretty agile. And then the last few things to mention out here is the gas door is right where I like it to be, which is the driver's side. If we lock the vehicle, if we wait long enough, the gas door should electronically lock, so you don't have to worry about the bums trying to siphon any of your 12.7 gallons of either regular octane or premium fuel, depending on how much horsepower and torque you want to make. This is rated for 22 city, 30 on the highway, so your max road trip and range would be about 381 miles. And then it has a Bridgestone Trenza tire, an 18-inch black wheel, which I personally think, especially when it's cleaned up, it looks really good. But it's a 215, 55, 18, and it has about 930 seconds of tread. And then this is your typical Mazda key. The buttons are on the side. You have lock, unlock, power liftgate if they're optioned with that. and then panic button, but you can leave that in your pocket because you do have proximity key features to lock and unlock the vehicle. The doors on these open actually pretty wide. It's easy to get in and out, but just be careful that you don't bump into a car next to you with how big that door does open. Anyways, the door panel is really nice. All of the materials seem to be higher end. A lot of them are harder, higher end leather type of materials. I do think that the armrest is going to have to soften up with age and when it's not 25 degrees out like it is right now. But it has Bose speakers, and overall I can't complain too much. The fit and finish seems to be really nice on this vehicle throughout. But the brown accents, the brown leather, that seems to follow throughout the interior. The mats are not yet installed. You do have rubberized pedals and a dead pedal, which I appreciate. You have hood release, knee airbag, little storage bin, memory seats, extra options, sliding stock, ventilation, heated leather-wrapped wheel that is tilting and telescoping with paddle shifters on the back, and then your power memory seat. It's heated, and Mazda seats and the Cx-30 lineup anyways I really like, and I think they're comfortable with a power moonroof up top. But sitting inside here is really comfortable. Mazda engineers seem to design really ergonomically pleasing, really good interiors. It kind of does feel like a cockpit, just how everything is wrapped around me. I'm really comfortable in here. When I fire it up with the push button start, I do have it in kilometer mode, which is just kind of for fun, but you can still see the miles per hour when you are driving. That gauge pops up as well. But overall, it's comfortable. It's easy to find a nice position. A 5'11", it's not too bad. Heads-up display. LED headlights on these are super bright. I have some nighttime driving videos if you're interested in some other Mazdas. Physical controls, heated steering wheel. Unfortunately, it's only heated between these two lines, just like my Toyota RAV4. I don't think this gets as hot as the RAV4, but the seats do definitely get hotter, so it's kind of a trade-off on what you care about. But physical climate controls, slightly declined wireless charger. Cup holders, they are in the way. I can't fit a gallon-sized drink right there, unfortunately, but I do have a decent clarity backup camera. Unfortunately, though, the trajectory lines do not move with it. And then sport mode or off. Electronic parking brake, auto vehicle hold, a scrolly dial to control everything. Ultimately, Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, they're wireless. That's what you're going to really be using most of the time. And then you can change the volume or you can push that down and turn off the screen, which is kind of cool. But otherwise, this is your sliding armrest. It's easy to find a comfortable position, but when you do slide it to the back, it does take up back seat occupant room. And you have a few options, a few plugins in here. Overall, it's pretty nice. Nothing on the rear view mirror, but you do have lighting. You do have some sunglass holders, the button for the sliding and tilting mirror. You do have more LED lighting right there, and then an extension piece, which is pretty cool. But with that said, let's turn it off and we'll hop in the back. And then just like I mentioned in my Carbon Edition review, the bad and the ugly. It could be that the bad is the cladding. Some of you guys, though, did defend this in the comments. You said matte black is better than shiny black because if you do take it off-road, this isn't going to get scratched up as much. It's not going to show the debris and the age. I do think on Aero Gray Metallic, this black cladding does look better than it does on some of the other colors, especially the Soul Red. But it's kind of funny to me that this is the sportiest Mazda SUV that they make, yet it has the most cladding. It has more than the CX-5 or the CX-50. And I'd say that those are more off-road geared than this. But anyways, when we hop into the back, the bad is just the size. If you are going to have a lot of full-size adults back here, you might not be their best friend after a long time because even though the door panel opens really big, the materials are nice, you have a nice fancy handle and Bose speakers still, it's just not very good back here. My knees are basically into the backrest. And honestly, off camera, I did slide the seat forward just a hair, just so that I wouldn't be as uncomfortable for this moment in time. Ventilation, we should have some controls in here, or I guess we don't actually on this one like we would on a high trim level of the 5 or the 50 where they have heated seats and stuff in here. Headroom is also not fantastic. If I lean forward, I hit this bump. If I am not leaned forward, you can see the cutout right there. I'm okay. Visibility, it is kind of dark, even though we have a light colored roof liner. Part of all of that is just the black interior, making it a little bit darker, contrasting in here. So overall, it's tight, it's snug. Mid-sized adults and below, children, they're going to be happy back here, but full-size adults on a long trip might not be thrilled to be back here for too long before you have to rotate around in the vehicle. With that said, let me hop out and I'll show you the hatch. Back here, I don't always like the back of Mazda SUVs, although a lot of crossover SUVs don't necessarily appeal to me in the back. This one is interesting. This gray color really masks and contrasts well with all the black plastic cladding, because otherwise you might notice the whole foot of wall right there. It just depends on what color you have. But there's a few ways to get into the back of this. you can either push the button on the dashboard, climb through the back seats, maybe just push the button under the emblem, or use the remote because if you paid for it, you might as well use it. And this is a power liftgate, which is pretty cool because not every subcompact offers that. The Crosstrek doesn't even offer that. But back here, you have about 20 cubic feet of room, which is on par with subcompact crossovers. But when you drop the seats, you only have about 45. And again, just for reference, a Crosstrek gives you 10 more cubic feet. It's kind of difficult to lay the seats flat. And when you do, again, only 45 cubic feet of room back here. But here's all your fancy mats. If I can get this one up in time, I will show you the Bose speaker and the spare tire that's hidden down there. Pretty cool. You also have your scissor jack and all of your other tire changing tools. And then up here, you have lock and you have lower, which is pretty neat. But if we come around to the front and you get to ride in the passenger seat, you'll notice that again, the door panel opens up really wide. There's a lot of nice materials on the door card. You're just missing a few of the controls for the switchgear. You don't have powered or memory seats though. You have to do it the old-fashioned way with the handle down there and the handle right there. But my backpack, enjoying the heated seats on this cold day, honestly doesn't seem to mind. This doesn't have any transmission tunnel storage or above the glove box. But look at how neat and nice that ventilation is. It's honestly pretty good looking. Non-locking glove box, 2 levels, no plugins or anything, but that's okay. I can forgive it because this is a really nice vehicle to ride around in. But with that said, let's come around to the front. I'll pop the hood and I'll show you what the 2.5 liter turbo engine looks like. Under the hood is a really nice 2.5 liter Skyactiv G turbocharged engine with a 6-speed automatic transmission that, as mentioned earlier, has the paddle shifters. So this engine, if it's on regular octane fuel, it makes 227 horse, 310 torque. The horse number is going to peak out in the high RPMs, close to 6,000. The torque is going to peak out closer to 3,000. But when you put some 91 premium dinosaur juice into this, it's going to get a little bit more power, 250 horse, 320 pound-feet of torque. The turbo is on the exhaust manifold right there under the heat shield. The induction, you can see right there, the intake manifold in black, plastic right there. Otherwise, you have the computer, you have the reservoirs kind of scattered throughout. You have the battery, the fuse box, the induction right through the turbo, comes back around underneath the intake. 5W30 oil, old school dipstick. It is interesting that Mazda gives you a really nice engine cover. They don't give you shocks, they give you a prop rod. So there's niceties basically all around this, but it is transversely mounted. This is a front-wheel drive bias system. So the serpentine belt is right there. It's gonna be hard to get to. The alternator's right there. Everything is kind of squished. The engine bracket to hold it on to the side of the engine bay is right there. So there's not a ton of room to work on this depending on what angle you're going from. But overall, it looks really good, and these are very reliable engines. So with that said, let's drop the hood, take it for a drive. Initial driving impressions of the 2025 Mazda Cx-30 Turbo. First of all, we gotta get up to speed. Let's do partial throttle. This thing just pulls effortlessly. Weighing only about 3,400 pounds, having over 300 pound-feet of torque even on the regular octane in this right now, it just feels so agile on its feet. It feels really light, and driving a light vehicle where you're not constantly fighting physics, it's kind of the way to go in my mind. If you don't need to drive a big heavy vehicle carrying more than you actually need, drive something more economic, lighter weight, and honestly, quite frankly, just fun to drive. This thing handles really good because it's all electronic steering. You can't feel anything through the wheel. There's no vibrations or anything. You're gonna have to get more of that through your feet and on the floorboard and through your bum in the seat, but it just handles really good. It's very sharp steering, yet easy to control, and it's heavy enough that it doesn't feel like you're gonna accidentally turn the wheel and bounce over too far out of your lane. This feels very controllable. Visibility is not the best, but it's good enough. This is kind of like the coupe SUV, the sporty SUV, if you could say that, compared to a lot of other ones. And handling corners like that, getting up to speed like this, partial throttle again. There are a lot of trade-offs when you want something that's funner to drive, but this doesn't actually seem to have that many trade-offs. Sure, there's not as much room in the back. Sure, the visibility, like just mentioned, is not the best in the class, but this thing is seriously one of the funnest vehicles I've driven because it is the least expected, the most unassuming. You don't expect a subcompact crossover to be much more than an economy car unless it is the Ferrari equivalent, but this thing really proves a lot of that wrong. This is just so fun to drive. It's really nice in here, and if you only occasionally haul around children or smaller full-size adults in the back, you really aren't gonna notice the deficits that this vehicle has. It's even gonna handle this bump probably pretty well. Okay, that was a little bit more firm, a little bit more stiff. But honestly, guys, I really like this vehicle. The speakers sound great. The seats are very comfortable. I think these are a lot more comfortable than CX-50 seats, and probably even more comfortable than CX-5 seats, because being a slightly smaller vehicle, it holds my build a little bit better at 5'11" and under 200 pounds. I just really like this car because it drives really well. It feels and reminds me a lot of the 2023 Miata that I owned for over a year. It's just a joy to drive. So I highly recommend you guys test drive one for yourself. Otherwise, I need to work my way over to the private road to do a 0 to 60, and then we'll wrap it up with my final thoughts. 0 to 60 in the Turbo Cx-30. Keep in mind, altitude is almost 4,000 feet, but it's 28 degrees out, so density altitude is about 2,000 feet. What that means is this turbo engine, due to the atmospheric air, is down on power about 3.5%, and then more than likely it's only on 87 octane. So it's not making full power, but let's see what it can do in sport mode with a bit of a brake rev. A little bit of wheel spin. Not bad. True 0 to 60 still came in at 6.78 seconds. My final thoughts of the 2025 Mazda Cx-30, but specifically this Turbo Premium, is I like it. I'm not joking around when I say that I really like these vehicles, and they're some of the most surprising vehicles that I ever get to drive. I've driven a lot of cool SUVs, including the Durango Hellcat and the Trackhawk Hellcat. Some really powerful high-end stuff on occasion. But honestly, 37 grand gets you so far when you are considering Mazda Cx-30 Turbo Premium. This is a very comfortable, very good riding vehicle, and I honestly just like it a lot. I think the value is there, especially compared to a lot of other vehicles, a lot of other brands. Honestly, guys, I really hope that Mazda doesn't follow suit with Toyota and some other companies that over the last couple of years have gone very expensive, and the quality does not reflect the value in the price anymore. Mazda right now seems to be one of the Japanese leaders. Them and Subaru have come a long way. And honestly, I'm really impressed with them, and I hope they continue to offer what the people want, which is not overly complex, crazy vehicles that cost a fortune. This still has a 6-speed automatic transmission. This one doesn't even have cylinder deactivation or i-stop start. It just has everything that you want. It has enough to have a soul, to give you a good ride, to be a fun vehicle to enjoy for you and a small family, or some friends on occasion in the back. Anyways, guys, ultimately, this is only my opinion, and that's all it's worth. What is yours? Please comment that below. Please share your experience with these if you have one of them. If you're watching from anywhere in the world that has these vehicles, I'd love to know what it's like to drive it, what it is like to live with it on a day-to-day basis. And if you got anything out of this video, please consider liking it. Comment your thoughts and opinions below. Otherwise, I'll link Goody Motor Mazda below, and I hope you guys take care. I wish you the absolute best. If you're going to spend a bunch of money on a car, test drive the competition. Make a day out of it. Test drive at least 5 vehicles. And then sleep on that decision before you write a check or you sign your name on something. Anyways, see you guys.